And we appreciate you taking time out of your day to join us here for our town hall tonight. We're excited to be focused on upcycling, especially during this holiday season when we're bombarded with excess waste and consumerism and consumption. So this is a great opportunity for us to kind of rethink what it is that we're doing with our choices. So just to kick it off, my name is Katie Duska. I'm the education coordinator at Surplus Store Recycling.
My name is Chris Hewitt. I'm the operations coordinator for the Surplus Store and Recycling Center, and I'll be handling the Q&A tonight.
And I'm Britta Ernest. I'm the studio educator at the MSU Broad Art Museum.
And we're pretty excited to have Britta with us here today. Britta is an artist herself and has been with the Broad Museum and is going to give us a couple, a fun way for an option to upcycle during your gift giving season. So we are happy to do these every month. And if you are interested in seeing what we have coming up in January, just pay attention to our recycling or surplus store Facebook page, and we'll put up some updates there. We're hoping to do one focused on our New Year's resolutions. So you might find something tonight that maybe sparks a little bit of interest or passion for you, things that you might want to start doing. So you can kind of think about that as we move, into the new year. So just to review what Spartan Upcycle is, it's a branch of the Surplus Store Recycling Center. And we started in 2016, or 2018, I'm sorry. And we launched officially at the Home and Garden Show, hosted there at the Pavilion on campus. And it's a project of surplus and recycling that basically was born out of a necessity, or rather a possibility that we saw. So we saw that a lot of material was going to waste that seemed to have value, and we wanted to capture that material. So we started the Spartan Upcycle store, which is an opportunity or a place that we sell both materials and completed projects that are upcycled from a variety of things that we've gotten either through our recycling operations or through the campus departments who send stuff to the surplus store, or to our public who donate to us. Under normal circumstances, we have an upcycle donation bin out at the drop-off center. So I'm going to just pull up a presentation here in a minute, just a couple short slides before we get started with Britta and her showing us how to do a fun craft for this season. So just before we get going, wanted to let you know that we'll be taking questions at the end of the session. So if you've got questions, please feel free to drop them in the Q&A box, or if you're watching on Facebook Live, to just drop them in the comment section and we'll take care of those. And then if you are watching on your computer screen, you would be able to adjust your view by just dragging the invisible line between the slides or the different video boxes, if you want to zoom in on what it is that we're talking about. And Chris is also dropping in some links in the chat box. So if you want to kind of follow along with what we're talking about or check out some of the resources that we mentioned, you can find them there. All right, and we are recording this webinar, so if anyone is interested in catching it, but they have to jump off, just know that we'll have it posted to our website later on. So I'm going to quickly share my screen here and talk a little bit more about Upcycle. So the mission of Spartan Upcycle is to reduce waste by inspiring and promoting creativity, resource conservation, and community engagement through art, education, and imagination. So it's kind of a mouthful, but basically what we set out to do is we want to both create new things, but mostly for the purpose of showing you as a sample of what you could make. And so we sell things that are completed projects, things that are for your home, like furniture or art, wall art, or other functional items like hooks, things like that. And then also some things made from textiles. We sell like t-shirt, grocery bags, a variety of things that always is changing. But we work with a lot of the common materials that we see in the recycling and waste stream. And so we are just excited to talk to you a little bit more about this tonight, and then hopefully start to offer an occasional virtual workshop where you could, maybe craft along with us. We did host some workshops in person, and that went pretty well with the community members. And so we'd like to get into doing that again as soon as we can. So you can shop for the Spartan Upcycle materials or the finished products on the Surplus Store website, msusurplusstore.com. So upcycling is part of what we call the zero waste hierarchy. So this is something that we talk about when we want to remember what is more important than recycling, right? A lot of us think recycling is the solution, but really that's just part of a broader solution. And it starts at the top with rethinking our solution or our relationship to stuff. So we have to kind of think differently and think about our solutions in a creative way. So we want to start shifting the incentive to stop wasting. So how can we encourage ourselves to have our values match up with our decisions, and our choices match up with our values? And then at the next mark, we hit refuse and reduce. So we want to refuse our single-use items that oftentimes come into our lives when we're out and about. It may be difficult during, the current circumstances, but we do the best we can. And then just reducing additional waste by maybe buying in larger packages, and just overall trying to conserve our resources by, maybe purchasing things secondhand, borrowing, having that shared economy, and just looking for materials that are already or items that are made out of recycled content. And then we hit reuse and upcycle. So upcycling is essentially creative reuse, and it's a way that we can add value to materials that otherwise seem kind of not worthless, but we don't really want them in their current state. So that could be things like old frames, old tins, old clocks, tubing, could be salvaged, like the thing like hinges, so things that maybe it's off a busted item, and you wouldn't want the cabinet, say with the doors, maybe they're busted and they're a little bit beat up, but you could harvest, so to speak, that hinge. So that'd be, then you could reuse that in another item, so you could be adding value to that thing. And then, of course, recycling and composting. We want to recycle the unavoidable waste and compost any of our food scraps that we have as much as possible. And then at the bottom of the zero waste hierarchy is to regulate disposal. So I just wanted to showcase a couple examples of ways that we can practice upcycling during the holiday season. So here's just a few photos. You can see the creative wrapping that's done with just a simple t-shirt. Oops, I'm sorry. I don't know if I moved my screen and I think it paused my sharing. I apologize. I'm on two monitors here, so excuse me while I kind of look to the side. But so these two packages, the one with the peace, love, joy tag, and then the one with the cactus on it, are both wrapped with old t-shirts. One is a collared shirt that was an old work shirt that was able to be donated, but if it's got a brand of a company on it, most likely it's not going to be a purchased item. So that was a good candidate to be upcycled into gift wrap, which is then reusable. That person could either use it as a rag, or they could save that piece of fabric and then reuse it again to wrap with. And then same with the one that has the cactus on it. That was an old flannel shirt that was kind of beat up and didn't really fit right anymore. So I cut that and wrapped that. So that's a very simple way. It looks kind of creative. It's kind of fun, and there's no waste at the end. It's something that can be reused over and over again. And same with the tags. Those tags are upcycled from old gift cards, or not gift cards, greeting cards that I received from Christmas, well, from the holidays last year. And so I just cut those out, following like the cutouts of maybe like a mason jar lid, or I used masking tape, a smaller jar for others, and then just use something sharp to punch a hole, and then used some miscellaneous ties that I had, some old ribbon, a twisty tie, that could be repurposed as the ties for those. And then this was something that I made that was from a picture frame. So it was an old picture frame that was unwanted, and it's now a centerpiece. It would work as a serving tray if you don't want to use it as a centerpiece. And as a thank you to everyone who's attending today, we wanted to offer this up as a giveaway. So the first person who can drop me an email at my email listed there on the slide, it's my last name, Deska, Deska, KAT at msu.edu. If you're interested in, drop me a note, and we would like to give that away. It's something that we would ask you to pick up at the surplus store. We won't be able to ship it to you, but it's just something made from things that we had laying around, and then a couple foraged finds around outside. So that's something that you can make too, upcycle decorations. There's a lot of YouTube tutorials out there for making things for the holidays. It's fun to start looking on Pinterest, and it's really an endless supply of ideas. So as we get ready to let Britta show us the way on a creative upcycle box that we're going to make, I just wanted to highlight the Broad Art Lab and Surplus Store Recycling Center. We did a partnership last year to do a workshop, Eco Craft Community Action Workshop, where we focused on plastic waste. And there's a tutorial on our website, and Chris is going to drop that link in the chat. And it's a way for you to make yarn, plastic yarn. So it's called plarn, out of like grocery bags. It's all about cutting it, tying it together, and then you can weave, knit, or crochet with that. And so that's kind of a fun activity if you would like to try something different. And then another thing that we're looking forward to continuing with Broad Art Lab is the Studio in Process Upcycle Edition. And Britta will tell us more about that. But we do have one tonight at 9 p.m. And that's going to be on the MSU Broad Art Lab's Facebook Live feed. And so Britta will be doing a showing some upcycled art demonstrations, and then we'll be in the chat dropping in a couple facts and some zero waste tips related to the materials that are being used in that project. So that is enough from me. Now let's ask Britta to come on in and lead us through this project.
Well, thank you so much, Katie. Our collaboration is really exciting to me, coming from the Broad Art Lab, because I think we're both organizations where we're asking folks to think differently and think creatively about how they use or reuse or upcycle. And so, so I'm really happy that I'm joining tonight to show you something I think is really magical as a process. We're going to be marbling some paper. I'm going to show you how to use that paper to line a box. And then also I'm going to be talking a little bit about an exhibition that's on view right now at the MSU Broad called Inner States of Mind, where the reuse and upcycle of materials for sculptures, and also thinking about industrial waste as well, is actually a part of the subject matter of that show. So I'll get into that in just a bit. So my name is Britta Ernest, and I'm the studio educator at the MSU Broad Art Lab. The Art Lab is across the street from the main museum, and that's where we hold classes. I have a studio that I run. It's more of the community engaged arm of the MSU Broad. So you can always visit us over there. In normal times, we're doing workshops and more hands-on activities, and we are doing virtual workshops and things like Facebook Live and Studio in Process. That's happening tonight at 9 p.m. Katie joins us once a month for the Upcycle edition for that. So now I want to get into the project. Katie gifted me the last time I was, or when I got to tour the MSU Recycling Center, which I really recommend if you can get a tour. It's amazing, all the things that they're doing. She gifted me some papers when I was there. They have a load of comic book pages. They have dictionary pages, like illustrated dictionary pages, maps as well. So to maybe the normal person, they think, oh, well, with big whoop, you know, but I really like having papers that I can use for creative purposes. And those came from the Upcycle donation bin that's not available now at the recycling center, but is usually a place where people will donate things that have creative potential. And so what I found is that the sheet music works really well for paper marbling. Not all papers work all that great for marbling in the process, but I thought it worked really nicely. So I'm going to have two views here, both my face view, and then also I'm going to turn on my hands view, which should be right here. So you see my twiddling fingers there. And so what I wanted to start with was marbling. And like I said, the sheet music worked really nicely to prep this, this paper, or you can experiment with different kinds of papers too, printmaking papers. Copy paper doesn't work that well. You want something a little bit more full bodied, or any papers with cotton rag within it. And what you do first is actually use a mordant, and you soak this in water mixed with alum. And everything I'm showing here comes from this marbling kit. It's a jacquard brad marbling kit. And so I'm following this method, which is Turkish marbling, because that's why it's called Turkish marbling, because we're thickening the paper that we're going to marble with. But for that first step, I am mixing alum, potassium, aluminum sulfate, along with water, and I'm soaking my papers, so using the sheet music, and soaking that in the mordant, which will make the dyes stick to the paper for like 20-25 minutes, and then I let these papers dry. So I've already applied the mordant to this paper here. So the vat of water that you see in front of me, this is what we call the marbling size. This is just water, but it has carrageenan, which is a word I've had to practice saying and pronouncing many times. This comes with the kit. Carrageenan is a seaweed extract. And when you blend that into the water, you do it in warm water, it thickens the water and it becomes a little bit slimy, and it smells a little bit like like an aquarium. And then you actually let it sit for at least 6 hours. They say it's at its peak marbling at 12 hours. I've actually made this yesterday morning, so it's been over 24 hours and it's still good and still working. You'll see at the bottom, there are a couple drops of, you see red and white and black ink that have sunk to the bottom. That's okay. I can still keep marbling on the top. The majority of my ink is going to stay on the top of this water. And then I'm going to use my paper, which has been treated, to pick up my patterns. So let's get down to like the magic part. I'm using one thing I got to do, you always got to skim the surface. If the marbling size has sat for a while, at least a few minutes, you have to skim off the surface. Otherwise, the inks are going to just skitter across the surface and they're not going to bloom like that. So these inks are pre-mixed. They're mixed with oxgall, which is a chemical that makes the pigment spread and bloom like that across water. What I found was that if I make a pattern that's a little bit more open, maybe not as dense, then if I'm marbling on the sheet music, I want to be able to see the sheet music. I want to be able to see the music notes along with the beautiful patterns of marbling. So I'm doing two things. So I don't want too dense. Here I'm just using a paintbrush and I'm tapping in dots of the ink. So I can do that, or I can be more concentrated and precise with one drop at a time too. If you never have, I really recommend getting on YouTube and watching paper marbling videos. It is quite the mystical rabbit hole. I love seeing people's different approaches and methods and patterns that they make.
Britta, not to interrupt, but it appears that we have maybe lost the view of your hands.
Okay.
Or it looks like we might be jumping back and forth between the two. So.
Okay, is it back? Are they both spotlighted?
Trying to tell.
I just dropped the spotlight from you personally, and I moved it to the marbling one. So I think that should be
Yeah, stick with there. That's great.
okay.
Cool. Thank you. So I've put in a couple different colors. I'm going to go back in once more with black. I'm going to be doing just kind of a randomized kind of pattern here. I'm not going to do anything too technical. I'm just going to swirl it a bit. Anytime you're just doing a swirling motion like this, they call it snail. And I'm just using the end of my paintbrush, and I'm only skimming the surface of the ink. And I'm moving things around so I'm getting interesting shapes that I want. Let's see. Swing that around that way. Get this one to feel a little bit more interesting. And so I'm just manipulating that. And then I'm going to take my sheet music. This is Where's My Little Dog Gone? And I'm going to put it down onto the ink. I want it to bow it so that the middle hits the surface first, and then I lay down the ends. And the reason is I want to avoid air bubbles, because air bubbles will prevent the surface of the ink from adhering. And I just pull it up. I don't have to leave it there very long. And there we go. And so it really picks up things in a really nice, vibrant way. It looks more vibrant on paper than it does on the surface of the water. I want to do one more and show you a pattern. You see there's a little bit of residue. I could print one more. I'm just going to clean this up with some blank paper. And also I'm just making sure that no skin has formed on the surface of the marbling size too. So I'm going to use some a little bit more traditional Christmas colors in this one. When you're dropping your inks, you want to do one drop at a time, hopefully. Sometimes I let two out. And I tend to usually start in this pattern where I have puddles of concentric circles. And let's see, I'm going to go back to red. And it's up to you with what colors you want to add. Sometimes I like to stay in a little bit more limited color palette by not adding too many at one time. Sometimes I want all the saturated colors to play around. Okay. And so now I'm going to do a pattern called a galget. Galget is back and forth, literally in Turkish. So I'm going to literally go back and forth, top to bottom first. And what I have a fun time doing is, starting with well-known patterns like galgat or snail, or there's a Spanish wave, and then kind of messing around a little bit more freeform, figuring out my own order of operations kind of to figure out the patterns. So now I'm going the opposite direction, and you really get that broken down sense of lines, and that's called a galgat in Turkish. Traditionally, you'll see also marblers will use combs. So they will make wooden combs that have nails, and they might rake across the whole surface, or they might kind of wiggle it as they go along too. So there's lots of fun things that you can get into. All right, I've got good night ladies here. All right, and so I'm gonna capture this. And I think this one will be really nice and vibrant, almost kind of a candy cane, peppermint candy sort of feel to it here. Whoop. There we go. Got a couple spots where I had some air bubbles. So you'll see, no ink is coming up, but I do think this is really, really beautiful. You'll notice it's a little bit slimy looking, and it is. So I let these dry flat, or if you were able to hang them up, you can. But then once they're totally dry, you do want to rinse them one more time so that they get a little less, like you're getting the carrageenan, the seaweed extract, totally off of them too, after they're dry. Because if I were to rinse it right now, the inks would move and run. And so what I'm going to do now, forgive me for a second, I'm just going to move my marbling and I'm going to show you what you can be doing with some of these beautifully marbled papers to upcycle them for your holiday gift wrapping. Let's set this here. Dry my hands are a little bit slimy from that marbling size. And I'll just give you a little showcase of some papers that I've made here. This is the one I started showing you. I've been attaching these together because what I want to do is I want to make a box, and I found that the box I want to make is a little bit too big for just using one of the sheets of paper. So what I want to do is make a box that is oblong. And I'm making a box like this because lately I have been baking. I have been making macarons. This is my procrastinating, as we call it, throwing myself into a complicated baking recipe when I should really be working on something else. So if I'm wanting to gift these cookies, they traditionally come in this long box. And if you go to somewhere like Joann Fabrics or Michael's and you look for boxes specifically meant for baked goods like cupcakes or macarons, you'll find they're very expensive. And I really wanted to upcycle and use things I already had around the house to make boxes that were, designed to fit. So I looked at my boxes of parchment paper. You'll notice. So what I thought is, here's a regular size if I put these together, but if I cut a box of parchment paper or tin foil or press and seal or saran wrap in half, that's the size that's perfect for gifting about 6-7 macarons. So what I did is I cut these in half. And well, first thing I did is I removed the teeth from the very inside of the box. Otherwise I wouldn't be able to cut it in half. So I did that. And then what I do next is I open up that box. And I'm no packaging engineer. And so what I thought is I'm going to use the template of what this box already is giving me. And then I'm going to use that to cut out a template or cut out the lining. I'll do it on this one. What I did is I just opened this up and let's see, which way does it go? And here we go. And I traced the backside of the sheet music and gave myself some guidelines for where I'm going to cut. With this one, I only had one of the ends. So what you can do is just flip it over. And I'm giving myself a clearance of about, probably 1 centimeter around the outside. And if I cut that out, and reassemble my box. And I reassembled the box, but I also put on a new end cap. So this is off of a different box. So this is a complete box now. So I can cut out that tracing from opening up the box board. And then I use Mod Podge glue to attach this to the outside. So I paint along on the paper all over, and I would section by section glue it to the lid, the sides, the bottom, and then I would wrap up the ends, kind of like a Christmas present, where I would cap off the ends. And I'm taking an X-Acto knife here and there if I need to cut away so that I can fold nicely. But this is a really nice way to get the right size piece of paper that I need to be able to line this. And you can do the same for the inside of the box as well. So I think it's a really cool way to use marble papers. I think it's kind of luxurious to line boxes or to give a box and make it more special than something that would get thrown away or recycled. Other things you can do with marbled paper is I've been making little gift card holders too. This, move my stuff here so you can see. This is just a paper template that I found online that if you are folding along the guides that you can use this as a template to cut out from nicer paper and make an envelope. Also too, I have, these are boxes, these actually came from IKEA, and I took marbled paper that I made and I lined the outside of the edge of these and covered a pattern I wasn't quite as excited about. So it was really nice to kind of customize this type of box too. This is the type of box I might keep greeting cards in or have it as like a desk set too. So those are some really great uses for marbled paper. I think it's a really fun way to spend time. I think it's really Christmassy and really festive. And I think it can be a cool way to add another layer and to alter papers that might otherwise end up being recycled or in a landfill too. So one thing I wanted to also show you, talking about upcycling, is an exhibition at the MSU Broad right now. I'm going to move over and share my screen here. So Interstates of Mind is an exhibition that's on view now, on view up until April. So you've got some time to see it. Interstates of Mind, rewriting the map of the United States in the age of the automobile. It's a exhibition that explores the development of the auto industry and interstate highway system through artworks through the early 1900s to now. It's a great show. I have visited multiple times when I'm at work, and it's a blockbuster. There's something for everyone in this exhibition. It features work that shows a lot of different aspects of car culture. Like this photograph, this is actually by actor Dennis Hopper, who is a prolific visual artist and art collector in his own right. So you'll see lots of depictions of the highway, of cars, of the 50s, but relevant to all of you as recycling enthusiasts and people thinking about recycling. There are lots of sculptural works that use upcycled and repurposed industrial automotive materials in the show too, because we can't really talk about automobiles without thinking about their impact to the environment and to waste. So those of you that have been in the MSU Recycling Center are familiar with this piece. There's 3 of them, and they're by Shakia Booker. We have borrowed these back from the MSU Recycling Center. That's where they live, and they're included in Interstates of Mind. Shakia Booker, she salvages cast-off industrial materials like automobile tires, and she transforms them into sculptures that are abstract. And I think when I watch people look at them, they're very mesmerizing and they're really interesting sculptures. So as commercial objects, we think about tires symbolizing the promise of the automobile, freedom, exploration, movement. But when they're discarded, they become pretty sad. They become metaphors for the decline of the auto industry and waste as well. So Booker gives new life to urban debris by cutting them, sewing them, shredding them, and then making them into sculptures. And this sculpture also includes some milking equipment as well from dairy milking too. Seeing the sculpture reminds me and gets me thinking about another aspect that is featured in Interstates of Mind. A lot of people may not know about Ford Landia. In 1928, Henry Ford established Fort Landia. It's a settlement in Belterra, Brazil, and that was in the Amazon rainforest. And his goal was to use the Amazon's natural rubber resources so Ford could make its own tires. Interstates of Mind has some images from Fordlandia. They're really fascinating because of the amount of Americanization that they tried to do in this very remote village. And we have those images in the exhibition. And this village was abandoned just 6 years later in 1934. So talking about utopias or the ways that the auto industry is affecting places really far flung away from Detroit. And one other artist I wanted to highlight is Tyree Guyton. He's best known for Detroit's Heidelberg Project, which some of you may have visited in Detroit. He transformed his childhood neighborhood in Detroit's East Side to an open air museum that upcycled the contents of abandoned houses in the area. And it's a really magical place. It's wonderful to visit and kind of wander around. Heidelberg also brought international attention to that area of Detroit in parallel with the decline of the auto industry there too. Tyree worked at Ford as an inspector, and the assemblage that you see here in the exhibition puts together a cage, the American flag on the lunchbox, and the lunchbox might make you think about the type used by factory workers. And by doing this, he's putting together some really symbolic relationships with found and discarded objects. And that's his practice, by reassembling and making new associations and assemblages from things that might be considered trash. So looking forward a little bit, another exhibition that might be of interest to those here in the town hall. We'll have some new hours beginning in the new year as well, along with this big new exhibition, Seeds of Resistance, responds to growing concerns on the decline of global biodiversity. It draws attention to the long history of plant and human interdependence. This is a really great piece that you see here of clay mushrooms of all different colors and shapes and sizes and species. So the best way to stay on top of our schedule and see these exhibitions and the programming that we do with them is to stay in touch with the MSU Broads Facebook, Instagram, or visiting our website. If you do want to visit us, we're open right now, Tuesday through Saturday from 12 to 5. And that's just for this month until we close on the holiday on December 20th. So that is coming up. We will have adjusted hours in January, like I said, so watch for those. Admission is always free to the Broad, but we do want you to get online and get ticketed time entry so that we're looking at capacities at all times too. So thanks so much for having me. Keep in mind, you can hop over to the MSU Broads Facebook tonight at 9 for stamped holiday wrap and gift cards. So every second Thursday, Katie joins me over on the MSU Broad Facebook Live, and I'm demonstrating art projects, art materials, and tonight is the Upcycle edition with her as well. So thanks so much for listening, guys. And I'd love to take any kinds of questions that you guys have.
Thanks so much, Britta. That was a really awesome creation that you made. It's really pretty, especially those thin little boxes. Like you said, they are very luxurious.
Yeah, and they're hard to find, so it's great when you can kind of build them to suit.
Yeah, and it's nice to see some upcycled pieces in the exhibition right now too. So
yeah.
Thanks for talking about that, and we really appreciate you coming on tonight. So we'd like to open it up for questions. So if anyone would like to ask Britta a question about the craft or any of the exhibits there now or coming up, or if anyone has any questions about Spartan Upcycle, feel free to drop them in the chat, in the Q&A box, or if you're watching on Facebook Live, put them in the comment section. Chris, are we having any questions come in yet?
Yeah, I've had a couple of questions come in. This one's for Britta. Britta wants to know, what kind of paint did you use? Can you repeat that, please?
Yeah, I'm using actually some inks that came in the kit. They are inks, and they include oxgall. They come pre-mixed if you get them in a kit. Oxgall is what makes them kind of spread, but you can water down acrylic paints as well and add oxgall to it. It'll make them behave. Mainly you're testing it out to make sure it's thin enough, and so it's not like a drop of paint that will just sink to the bottom of the treated water, but that will spread really evenly.
Okay. And where did you get that kit from?
I got the kit actually from Dick Blick, or blick.com. It's a art supply store. I do know that Odd Nod Art Supply is offering and carrying a lot more marbling and paper supplies as well too. They're a new independent art store in Old Town in Lansing.
Question here, this one's for Katie. Will there be online Spartan Upcycle workshops soon?
We hope so. It's something that we've talked about, and I think that we figured out a way we could do it. So we sell the material in the surplus store, and so We have the capacity to either mail things out. Obviously, we sell our packages all over, or our products all over. So we could package those and mail them out, or do a curbside pickup. So that way people could, get their materials, at least some of the key pieces for the workshop from us. And then we could do a kind of walkthrough, with those. So we've discussed that, and right now we're kind of looking at what the inventory of our stock looks like. So since we're not taking anything in right now, kind of going through the back area to see what do we have a lot of and what could we create, multiple of, and kind of create these little kits to go along with the workshop. So definitely something that we would like to do. And so if anybody is interested in those, then to just follow us on our Facebook page, Spartan Upcycle, and we would be posting about it that way too.
Is there any upcycle items for sale right now on the website?
Yes, we are continuing to put up new items on the website that are from Spartan Upcycle basically daily. Our collection is listed under the shop box, the shop button on the surplus store page. And so under that, you'll find some things that, like I talked about, are completed, items that you could give as gifts or use in your home. And then there are some things that you could upcycle yourself, and materials that you might find for your projects. And just a note that if anybody is interested in finding a particular item, but they don't see it on our website, send it to recycle@msu.edu, drop us an email, because we have a lot of stuff and we haven't been able to list it all yet. So it's very possible that we have something that you're looking for, but we just haven't been able to package it and get it listed yet online.
Okay. I got a question here for Britta. This one is from Beverly, and she wants to know, did you say that the Broad is closed during winter break?
We are, yeah, we're closing beginning Sunday, December 20th, and then we're reopening on Friday, January 15th. So there is a bit of a gap while we are closed, but we are working at that time to install the new show, Seeds of Resistance.
All right, Katie, I'm going to bounce it back to you. Got another question here. Do you sell raw materials to do your own upcycle projects?
Yes, so that's something that we're trying to build up right now. For instance, we have a lot of paper. We get pieces of metal. We have endless supply of cardboard. We have a lot of things that have been donated to us over the years that we've kind of stockpiled, including maps, old sheet music, a ton of books, more books than we can either sell or even give away. So there's a lot of ways that you can creatively reuse books. And then we also have wood, and under normal conditions, we have what we call Free Wood Friday periodically, where we'll open up the back lot because we get so many pallets in, and it's better for us to recycle or to reuse those than anything else. And so we have a lot of miscellaneous things. We get tons of fabric donated. So the material that we have at Upcycle would be either objects that came in through the department. So it could be old furniture, or it might also be electronic waste that you could creatively reuse. And then we also get a lot of things from the public, which would be more typical art supplies that people would think of, if they're thinking of crafting something. So yes, it all depends on what you're looking for.
All right. Thank you for that. I'm going to bounce it back to Britta. I got a question here. Is the art lab open to the public, and how can we find out more information?
Yeah, the art lab is open to the public. We mirror the same hours as the museum itself. Right now, up until the 20th, we're open 12 to 5, Tuesday through Saturday. We do have an exhibition space over in the art lab as well. We have a show on right now called Who is a Citizen? So there's always something to see over there, even if we're not having hands-on events. It is also an extension of our museum store. So there's retail there for fun art gifts too.
And they can always find out more by going to the Broad's main website. That's broadmuseum.msu.edu. You can stay on top of the calendar there too for either anything we're having in the galleries for exhibitions or online virtual events too, and to keep on top of our hours because they will shift in January.
I'd just like to add to that, Chris, in case folks don't realize, surplus, also the surplus store also sells some things that are, from the Broad Art Museum. So we have a couple things highlighted under our 2020 surplus store holiday gift guide, and there's some really nice things in there. I was definitely eyeballing a couple scarves in there as gifts for friends. But there's other fun things as well.
And it looks like we have one final question that's come in. It's for Katie. Can the paper that has the paint on it be recycled?
Generally, if it's heavily painted, no. If there's just a little bit of, paint on the paper from maybe like the edge of something that you were painting on, that would be okay. But if the whole paper is painted, then we would urge you to not recycle that. Maybe find a way to reuse it, like use it for wrapping paper if it's just kind of scrap, or like also just save it as a way to kind of, when you're done painting, squeeze out your brushes, on it, just to kind of make something new with that paint so it doesn't go to waste. And then you have a piece of paper that you can then cut up and use in a junk journal, or make a little gift tag or birthday card or something like that. So
I have a whole pile of newsprint that's been kind of used as like underneath painting projects or underneath printing projects that I'm using and reusing. It's kind of a billowing pile like right at my feet, but it always comes in handy too, because it's really nice that it doesn't, I can use it many, many times.
yeah. Any other questions, Chris?
Nope, it looks like all the questions we got.
Okay. I'm going to just put my screen up real quickly. As a thank you to everyone for joining us tonight, we would like to offer up the coupon for the surplus store for 15% off. So the coupon code is something that you would enter at the checkout online. It's Upcycle Town Hall, and that's good for 15% off the store. And it's valid until January 14th, and there are some stipulations. And anyone who's joined on Zoom, we will send that coupon code out in the email that you'll get, and the fine print is in there as well. And then just a reminder again, like Britta said, the Studio in Process Upcycle Edition is happening tonight in about an hour and 15 minutes at 9 on the Broad Art Lab's Facebook page. So she'll be going live. So just a reminder to anyone who's interested to join us for that. And I think that's it. Anybody would like to add anything?
No, I think we're good. Yeah, hop on over at 9. I've got some really great stamping and different ways to continue upcycling paper and talk about being more conscious about the things we're buying or not buying this holiday season.
Awesome. Okay. Well, thanks everybody for joining us, and we look forward to hopefully seeing you in 2021 for the next town hall. And but before that, over on the chat with Britta tonight during the Studio in Process. So hope you all have a lovely evening and a good rest of your 2020, best as you can. All right. Cheers, everyone.
Have a good night.
Bye.
Good night.